Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members. This particular amendment is regarding law enforcement initiated extreme risk protection orders. So my amendment exempts the extreme risk protection orders initiated by law enforcement officers. Notwithstanding any provision of the Act, nothing herein shall be construed to prohibit a peace officer, law enforcement agency, or prosecuting attorney from petitioning a court of competent jurisdiction for a temporary extreme risk protection order to prevent an individual from accessing firearms, provided that the petitioner presents clear and convincing evidence. And members, I'm reading this because this will tell you what an extreme risk protection order does. Now, granted, we don't have extreme risk protection order in law in Texas, but we do have protection orders. And so that you can understand what the difference is, the individual, again, would be prevented from accessing a firearm provided that, first of all, the petitioner presents clear and convincing evidence that the individual poses an imminent risk of harm to themselves or others. And again, members, this would go through due process. Oftentimes, the argument against extreme risk protective orders is that there is no due process, and that's simply not the case. So a petitioner would be going before a judge. Second of all, the petitioner includes sworn affidavits, incident reports, or other supporting documentation. 3, the court holds a hearing within 14 days of the issuance of a temporary order. Again, members, this is due process. This is going before a judge in a court. Number 4, the individual subject to the order has the right to counsel and to contest the order at the hearing. Members, what is this? It is due process. 5, any final order shall be limited in duration to no more than 6 months, subject to renewal upon further judicial review. Okay, did y'all hear that? It's not taking someone's gun away permanently. Says this order would be limited in duration to no more than 6 months. And finally, firearms surrendered under such an order shall be returned promptly upon expiration or termination of the order. Members, we should certainly be doing everything that we can to make sure our communities are safer. When you hear the argument that red flag laws don't allow for due process, that is simply false. I have just read you what the steps would be for an extreme risk protective order. With that, I move adoption.
Mr. Reynolds, for what purpose?
Would the gentlelady yield for a question?
Gentlelady for questions?
Yes, I will.
She yields for questions.
Representative Goodwin, I was listening to your amendment layout. I can tell you that last session I had a similar bill that was brought to me by my district attorney from Fort Bend County, Brian Middleton. Are you aware that there are district attorneys that believe that your amendment would be helpful?
Oh, absolutely. I think all across Texas they would agree with that.
And are you aware that based on the bill author's argument that we don't want to take away due process, your amendment gives due process, correct?
That's absolutely right. And like you, I have also filed bills in which we would be creating the framework for these types of orders so that we are giving people their due process and so that our district attorneys and our judges throughout the state would know how the process works.
And the long end of it is that this process is a temporary, potentially, removal of the gun from the hands of someone until they can make a determination, correct?
That's absolutely correct. And I think all of us can think of situations where this could have been helpful. It could have prevented deaths.
And I'm no psychiatrist or psychologist, but there are certain times that an individual may be in a manic episode, correct?
Yes.
And those individuals, we may have medical documentation and therefore that information is presented that there's a compelling reason why the firearm should be temporarily removed, correct?
Absolutely.
And don't you believe that these are reasonable limitations to help potentially reduce a potential mass shooting?
Yes, I absolutely believe that. And that's why I and you and other members have worked so hard to put in place extreme risk protective orders here in the state. In fact, after the shooting in Uvalde, Representative Jerry Patterson, who, I'm sorry, not representative, former Senator Jerry Patterson, former General Land Officer, Commissioner, was in one of the hearings that we held after Uvalde, and he actually suggested that we should pass an extreme risk protective order law here in Texas. And he is the one who I think was the original concealed carry bill author here in the legislature.
And Representative Goodwin, finally, in addition to district attorneys, I've also talked to law enforcement, because when I had this bill, I talked to law enforcement about extreme risk protective orders. And the law enforcement officers that I talked to, sheriff, constables, police officers, police chiefs, all of them have said that this is something that would help save lives, whether it's suicide, domestic violence, homicides. Are you aware of that?
Yes, I believe in working with all the stakeholders, and that certainly includes our law enforcement. They're out there on the streets every day putting their own lives at risk. And when they see somebody that they say, wow, this person has given all the signs, all the indicators, the red flags that they are going to harm themselves or somebody else, and there's nothing they can do about it. It's incredibly frustrating, and it's putting their lives in jeopardy too.
And you just made my final point. So this is putting law enforcement's lives at risk as well as ordinary citizens. So basically, this is a pro-public safety amendment that you have filed. I think that is great. This is a common sense gun safety measure, and I hope that people will support your amendment. Thank you for filing it.
Thank you. We always talk about backing the blue. Members, this would support our law enforcement and give them a tool in their tool belt to make sure people who are at risk of harming themselves or others, there's something that they can do about it. With that, I move adoption.